Hey everyone, this is Todd with Paranomaly along with Courtney Lynn, and tonight we're going to be talking about all kinds of crazy stuff. So, we're going to be talking to Emma Flood from Paranorthern, and they're located in Bolton, UK, and in the Manchester area. Now, their group was founded in 2017. It's comprised of 18 members. They have been actively searching for answers to the paranormal activity and phenomena ever since. So, stay with us. All right. So, we have Emma Flood with us, and I can't wait. I'm actually pretty excited. Courtney, how was your day today?
Oh, it was all right.
It was all right.
It's Monday.
All right. Emma, can you hear us?
Hi. Yeah, can I hear you? Can you okay?
Yes, everything is good to go. All right. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What got you started in this?
I suppose from being quite young, really. I've always been interested in kind of like ghosts and reading books on them. And I had some experiences when I was little. My mum heard me talking to something in my bedroom, and I was talking about like old money, like old English money, like shillings and threepenny bits. And I was only 7 at the time. So she was like, well, you wouldn't know what that means unless you were actually talking to somebody that maybe wasn't there. And then it kind of just stemmed from there, really. So probably from when I was about 8 years old.
So tell me, like, you have, your team was founded in 2017, correct?
Yeah.
And you have 18 members. Are you the owner of the team?
Yeah, I found it in May 2017. I was in a group, a previous group, but I didn't feel like I gelled properly with that team. So I just thought I'm going to set up on my own and kind of do it under my own rules, because I'm not into like making money off this. I do it for trying to gain evidence and nothing more. So I thought, right, I'm going to set up on my own. I worked with two of my friends, and we just said, oh, should we set something up about like, on our own? So we did, and then gradually brought 5 extra members in. So yeah, it's a good team that we've got now.
That's excellent. Now, how is your 2022 going?
Really good. So we had December and January off because obviously people are quite busy with family things, and obviously New Year's a bit hectic, everyone getting back into the swing of things. So we did our first investigation of 2022 on Saturday, just gone, which was really interesting. We've got another investigation in on the 19th of February, which is at an old barracks, like a sea cadets barracks. So there was a lot of like First World War and Second World War soldiers. I think the building dates back to like the 1860s. Nick Groff and Katrina from Paranormal Lockdown, they actually investigated there when they were over in the UK. It's actually on the Paranormal Lockdown UK show, the Mill Street Barracks. And it's an amazing building. We've investigated there before, and we had some really interesting things in the cellar. It's a brilliant location. So we try to do one investigation a month, but we're getting more and more people contacting us, asking us to do investigations at their places. So some months there'll probably be a couple of investigations, but we don't mind.
Nice. So where was you just at?
So we were at, we call them a tea room. So basically it's like a little cafe, and it's actually in a graveyard, believe it or not. So there's a little kind of cafe attached to like a chapel, and then it's in a graveyard. It was heavily used in the war. I think it was also a little theatre at one point as well. And there is the creepiest cellar I have ever been in, ever. Like, as soon as the door opened, I was just like, I don't want to go in there. It was as though something was just like, no, you need to stay away. It was just, I just got a very strange vibe from it.
Is this the same place that you used your SLS cam?
Yeah.
And tell us about that. What prompted you for? Is there a child there that's running around?
Well, we've actually been to this place 3 times now, and I've said a couple of times I do feel like there is a child or children there. And one of my friends came with us on Saturday, and she'd never been on an investigation before, but she's quite sensitive to things. And she walked in and she said, I'm getting a really, really bad headache. And I was like, right. I said, well, it could be just like that you're maybe dehydrated or something like that. And then she was like, I feel like there's a child in here. And I was like, that's so weird that you said that, because a few of us have said that as well. And the SLS camera was on a table, and one of the guys in the group walked past, nowhere near the camera, but just walked past the camera. And he was like, oh my God, he was like, I can see a figure on the SLS camera. So we all kind of like walked around it, and it stayed there for, it must have been about 3 or 4 minutes. And one of the guys in the group, he went to kind of stand in front of where the figure was, and he knelt down and he put a little toy car in his hand, and he like put his hand out, and this figure reached over and touched his hand because it had a car in it. I mean, I suppose you had to be there, but we were just absolutely mind blown. Now, the people in our group, we all work full time. The guy who was kind of had the car in his hand, he's an ex-police officer. So, he's quite a logical person. He doesn't jump to conclusions. And he was like, it's really odd, because when I was knelt down, I felt it was ice cold. Whatever was in front of me was ice cold. So I was like, right. I said, well, bear in mind, you kind of obviously lower and you're near the door, so there could have been a breeze. And he was like, I know. He said, but everywhere else around me was warm, apart from in front of me. And I was like, right, okay, that's a bit odd. There was nothing that could have been creating the figure, as in like a reflection or anything like that, because it was too low down. So we are a little bit stumped as to what else it could have been. But yeah, there was a lot of things happened on that night, and we had to take quite a large break from the night because it was a little bit too much when we did the EVP session. That was a little bit creepy, really, to be honest.
And how long did you investigate this place?
Well, I think it was probably around about 4 hours. We did 4.5 hours. It took a while to set up because obviously we have all our like cameras and motion detectors and things like that. But it normally takes about an hour to set up. So I think we were there for about 4 hours. Normally we're there longer, but obviously the lady that owns the cafe, she had to open up in the morning. So we didn't want to stay too late. So I think we stayed till about 1:30, 1:45 in the morning.
Okay. So let me ask you this. What equipment does your team use the most?
The most, I'd probably say the REM pod, the SLS camera, the EVP recorders, and just like little trigger objects like cat balls, which are little balls that light up if they're touched. So we put them on the floor in an investigation room, and then because the room's dark, you'll see if they light up. They've never actually lit up yet, but they're a good object to have because they literally light up with the slightest movement. And we obviously have cameras as well that we've put in each room. But I was talking to another investigator, funnily enough, from America. He's based in Mississippi. And we got chatting about different techniques. And he just said to me, he was like, you don't need all of this really expensive, fancy equipment. The best equipment you can have is an EVP recorder and your eyes in your ears. Trust your own senses. And I thought, do you know what? That's a really good point. So I mentioned this to the team and they were all in agreement. So that's what we've done now. We've tried to kind of more focus on the EVP sessions that we do.
Yeah, and that's I think from looking at your stuff that you've been doing and trying to validate and get the answers to your paranormal questions, you know, it's important that you use all your senses because each person's going to have a different experience. Correct?
Yeah, definitely.
Now, you had given me a clip. A few clips actually, and I believe it's from the Village Green Tea Room. Is that what we're?
Yeah, that's where we were on Saturday.
Okay, I'm going to play that clip, and I hope that we can hear the EVPs good. Let me get this queued up here. All right, here we go.
Yeah, like faint talking. So you might see some lights dotted around the room. If you go to one of those, you'll touch it, make it light up even more, maybe even make a sound.
Did anyone hear that whistling?
And it's still playing.
Right.
What?
No, not then.
No.
Sure, there was not behind me. We're going to blow the candle out just to see. Should we just try and get it as dark as we can?
Right, seriously, what was that?
Is there any way that you can make this lights, like the device in front of me light up?
So we're in the cellar, just doing another EVP burst session. The light will go up in a second.
All I can think of is Philip.
Philip. Is there a Philip with us?
Just got the year 1951.
1951.
Yeah, it's just flashed right in front of me.
Does that mean anything to you, the year 1951?
Is 1951 relevant?
Is there anyone down here with us that wants to speak to us now? It's just the three guys.
Can you remember when we was down there last time? I think we was attracted to Kieran because of the military connection.
Do you remember me? Are you guarding something? Just got a chill when I said that.
Is there something down here you don't want people to find?
Or was you hiding from somebody?
That's one that you just went like that. It was all like, I don't know, like I thought you'd gone like that, put your finger to your lips. That's weird.
Me?
No, Gary. That's really weird, that. So I looked at you thinking, what are you doing? Like, I thought he was doing that, genuinely.
All right, I think that's the end of the clips. Can you give us a little bit of insight of what's going on? It's very hard for us to hear, but I'll definitely link that in to the episode when it goes out.
Yeah. So when we were, that was actually in the main hall. Part of it was in the main hall, and it was as though we heard like a voice saying no. And then it's hard to remember everything that was said on that clip, but I do remember that the bit where I said is 1951 relevant, you actually hear a voice on the EVP go, like, say why, but in like a really whispery, breathy voice. And when we heard it back, when we were upstairs, it was like, it's so clear. I just hope that like people will be able to hear it if you post it. That was kind of like when we first started doing the burst sessions, because normally we just listen to it back off the recorder ourselves. But when you plug it into a speaker, it's just so much clearer. It just kind of blew our mind really, which is why we wanted to go back to the village tea room. So like I said, we've been there 3 times. The first time is when we had the voices on the EVP. The second time, nothing really happened, but that can happen though. And then obviously on Saturday was when the really strange things happened. I think my friend Dan that's in the group, he pieced it together and tried to do like subtitles as to what we believe was said on the EVP.
Okay, and now tell me how long is this what is the history of this place?
That's what I was just going to ask. Is there something historical that happened there? Is there something that drew you there?
So I believe it was a Sunday school. Now, a Sunday school, I don't know if you guys have that over in America or you know the terminology of it, but it's basically where the children go when church is on. So the children are kept occupied and they do like arts and crafts and they do Bible readings, things like that. That was a long time ago. That was probably like in the 40s, 50s. I believe it was like a little theatre as well. And then it was derelict for a while until a family bought it and turned it into a little tea room cafe. And it's been in the same family for about 30, 40 years now, I believe.
Very cool.
So let me ask you this. What do you have planned up for 2022 that's really gonna pop? It's gonna explode. What is like? Do you have anything in the works that's gonna be huge?
Yeah, so we've got we've got a couple of things in the pipeline. We are going to a house that dates back to the 1600s, which is based in Yorkshire. Some workmen kind of approached us and said that they'd been doing some work on this house and some really odd things had been happening. So we're going to be going there to investigate to see what's happening. Basically, the workmen will be like working, so they'll be on the knees and they'll be like laying floor down or fixing pipes, and they'll have their clothes tugged on. And it's getting to the point now where some of the guys are like, I don't want to go and work in there if I'm on my own. And these are grown men that are big guys, and they're a bit freaked out and don't want to go in there. There's another place called the Barlow Institute, which is a very old building. It's probably dates back to the early 1800s, and it's where people used to go to use the bath and the bathrooms, when they didn't have a bathroom in the house, so years and years ago. And it's very heavily used in the war as well, from what I can gather. We are hoping to go down to London at some point this year, to kind of like the old haunts, like Whitechapel, which is where Jack the Ripper kind of frequented, and also where the Cray twins. I don't know if you guys have heard of the Cray twins. They're quite renowned gangsters in the 60s in the UK, in London. So we're going to go kind of where their old haunts used to be and just see if we can maybe capture anything.
That would be really interesting.
So what, do you do, residential business clients as well?
We tend to stay away from residential homes just because I'm always a little bit cautious, because you don't know what people have done in their house, whether they've been doing black magic or voodoo or anything untoward there, and then obviously something may have been conjured up possibly, and that's when they're trying to get rid of anything. So I'm always a little bit cautious of doing anything like that in a home. We have been to a house before where their daughter, she doesn't speak. The daughter doesn't speak, so she's 3 years old, and she doesn't speak, and I think she's slightly deaf as well. And the mum said that she reacts to things that aren't there. And we actually saw it with our own eyes when we were there doing the interview with her. We were stood at the top of the stairs, and all of a sudden the little girl just started pointing at something and was just staring at something that was not there. And I'll be honest with you, it freaked me out a little bit, because it was just very... She could clearly see something was there, even though there was nothing there. It was just really bizarre, really bizarre. So I'm a little bit dubious about doing houses, if I'm honest. So we tend to stick to kind of office buildings or hotels or things like that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. You never know what's happening in someone's house, so I totally get it, and I completely understand it. I've done hundreds of houses and businesses, and sometimes it's a little nerving going into somebody's home, not quite knowing what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
So if somebody wanted to reach out to Paranorthern, would you help them?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, we always try and help where we can. If somebody wanted us to go and obviously speak to them in the first instance, then we would definitely do that. But it just depends on what they're experiencing. But to be honest with you, we tend to get people that own businesses like hotels and pubs and things like that contact us. So we tend to do those kind of places, really. That's why the Tea Room actually contacted us back in the summer of 2020. But obviously the whole pandemic was at its peak and we couldn't investigate for nearly 18 months. So that was unfortunate. So they had to wait until I think it might have been last year that we did our first investigation there. We have done a residential property, and it's an old farmhouse which is 400 years old. Now, we went and did an interview first, and I'll be honest with you, when we walked in, it was it's a very dark building, it's very old, it's very, very cold. It's lovely, it's beautiful, but it's just got a very, very strange atmosphere. And we were in one of the bedrooms, and I've said to the woman, because we've been there twice, and I said to the woman the first time round that lives there now, and I said, I'm sure somebody has passed away in this bedroom. And she was like, no, I don't think so. I know he was poorly, but he didn't pass here. And I said, I'm convinced he did. Anyway, when we went back the second time, she was like, I've got something to tell you. And I was like, what? And she said, he did pass away in the bedroom. And I was like, right, okay. So we all decided to do a spirit box session. And it came up with a name. And that name was the actual surname of the old homeowner's name that had been in the family for generations.
Oh, wow.
So that was really strange. So what we tend to do on an investigation is 3 or 4 of us will go off and investigate, and then the rest of the team will watch the cameras, watch the monitor with the cameras on to see kind of what we feel. And you see one of the guys in the group that I was with kind of duck as though something was about to hit him, and we're in complete darkness, so we can't see anything. But the guys were saying that there was this strange light that kind of was coming towards us and towards Gary, and it was as though before it impacted, he kind of ducked out of the way. And I said to Gary, I said, was it not a bug or anything? And he was like, no. I said, I don't know what it was. He said, I just felt like I needed to move, that was really odd. But in that house, we'd done a bit of a seance kind of call out, and the woman who owns the house had invited the previous owner to join in as well. But unbeknownst to us, she brought 2 friends with her, which we weren't too happy about because we don't like a lot of people on an investigation with us. Anyway, we were doing the investigation, and the REM pod kept going off when it kept saying Emma. Now, obviously, I'm Emma. And I was like, right, this is really odd because it's never happened to me before, it to be a reading or a message for me. And then all of a sudden, I just got this image of a man in my head. And obviously, when I get anything like that, I have to say what it is in case it means anything to anybody. And anyway, it turns out that one of the friends that was at the home that I didn't know was called Emma, and her friend had passed away 18 months ago. And she showed me a picture of him, and it was him.
Wow.
And I explained what he looked like, what music he was into, and that he was extremely grey for a long period of time before he passed. And he was only in his early 40s, and he died of cancer. And when she showed me the picture, it really affected me because it was too accurate of how he looked. And I had to have a break. I had to go away for 10, 15 minutes and just gather myself, because even though I enjoy doing this, when something is so accurate, it still shocks me and scares me a little bit, because I think, where am I getting this from? Because I don't fully understand it all myself. And when I get all this information, I don't know where it comes from, which is something I do need to kind of learn a little bit more about. But I suppose that will come in time.
Right. Well, I am completely new to all of this. So just hearing all the stories just gets me kind of hyped up. Like, I would love to go on an investigation, just to feel, see, hear anything.
Have you ever done an investigation?
I have not.
Oh, you should definitely do one. Maybe do one that's like an organised one in the first instance. And then if it's something you enjoy and you've got any like friends that are interested in the same thing, maybe see about doing something together. Because you've got loads of places in America. There's so many places. I'm so jealous.
I guess that's one thing we have good going for us.
Oh, well, like I said, like my friends that live in Mississippi, they've done so many places kind of over that way, and it just looks crazy. It's all the old like prisons and the hospitals and asylums. I would just absolutely love it. I would love to do the Lizzie Borden house. I would love to do Waverly Hills. And there is, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. I think it's in Mississippi. Natchez or Natchez. There's an area there that's quite active. I'd love to do that. I think we do need a trip overseas, over to America. It's just finding the money.
I completely understand.
So let me ask you this question. When you are doing your investigation and you get that chill and, you know, the hairs on your arms stand up, what goes through your mind right away? Do you just get like all excited because you know something is close to you?
Yeah, and the thing I want to do most is if I can relay a message or get out what they want to say. That's what I'd want. That's my ultimate goal, is to be able to do that. But I think the first thing I do is to try and compose myself, because sometimes, like on Saturday night, I was on the roof because I was just like, what is happening? Because we actually had an EVP session. That basically there'd been a murder not far from where we were investigating that had happened kind of maybe 15 years ago. And I didn't know anything about this, but I was getting all these kind of images in my head. And Dan, who's one of our team members, he's also our researcher. So he knew all of this, but he writes it down and he tells us afterwards. And when I was saying the things, he was looking at me going, "You're exactly on the right path. Carry on doing what you're doing." And
that's awesome.
Basically, it was a very violent murder. And we were doing this spirit box session, and all of a sudden you hear this almighty bang, which we didn't even hear when we were actually doing the calling out. And then we heard the word murder come through on the EVP. And I was absolutely gobsmacked. I could not believe it. I didn't pick it up on the first time. And it was one of the girls, she was like, "I'm sure that sounded like murder." She was like, "Just rewind it back." We rewound it back and put it on high, and it said murder. I just couldn't believe it. In all honesty, it made me want to stop the investigation, because I just thought, that's too close, that's too coincidental.
So let me ask this question as well, because each person does this differently too. Before you get to a property that you know that you're going to, a business, do you do all the research to find out, you know, where that building is sitting on?
No, I don't. Dan does, who's one of our researchers. So Dan's got a history degree. He's the ex-police officer. So the deal is that he does all the research, he writes everything down, and then over the night, if there's anything that we say that rings true, he'll tell us. And then by telling us, that helps us to kind of carry on going with what we've got. I don't like researching a place before we go because I think that it can make you think things are there that aren't.
Right, have a preconceived notion.
Yeah, so I'd rather go in kind of blindly and just get a feel for the place myself. Sometimes when you go to do like a pre-interview before an investigation, the people that own the place will kind of tell you a little bit about the building. But I do try and say, look, don't tell us too much. You can tell us how old it is and that type of thing, but try not to tell us too much. The places that we've done, because they're that big and that active, we tend to go back to them because there's so much to investigate. So we're going to be going back to a police station that we have investigated at before, and that's actually got an original courtroom and actual prison cells underneath. It's a really, really interesting building. Very, very eerie at night, and when the lights are off. We actually heard a woman's cry come from the bottom of a corridor, from the end of a corridor. The only problem is because it was too far away, the EVP didn't pick it up, which is devastating. But that was the first investigation there, at that location, the first one we did there, and I couldn't believe it. And it was at 5 a.m. in the morning. We were getting ready to settle up and stop, and we just started talking out and calling out, and you heard it. And I was like, what is going on? But I'd never heard anything like that before.
Yeah, I like the way that you don't do the background check. You have one person do it, and that kind of validates what you're whenever you're getting your EVPs and things like that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I just think it's. I mean, you get people that probably do research beforehand, and I just think can it be a true kind of investigation then, because you've already got some information in your head already. So I think it's better to go into it as like a blank canvas.
Right, and that's true. I mean, if if someone gives you too much information, then you're going to work right off of that. So it's definitely good to have like a clear palette, if you will.
Yeah, and I think there's so many critics that, it may not be believable to certain people because, well, how do we know when she knows the whole history? And so I think that is a good approach.
Yeah, because then it seems like if you know too much, then people are going to be like, oh, well, yep. it's fake, Yeah,
and that's it. And the paranormal field has had its fair share of people mocking it and not believing it, and it's each to their own, I guess. But I mean, my husband, he does not believe in any of this, but he waited up for me on Saturday after the investigation, just because he doesn't like going to sleep until he knows I'm home safe. And I got home and I played him back the EVP off the live that we did, and he was like, "That said murder," and I was like, "I know," right. And he was like, "That is madness," and even he was like speechless. And funnily enough, before I came to the bedroom to obviously do the podcast with you, we were watching telly in the living room, and our house is really strange how it's set up. So we've got the bedroom and bathrooms downstairs, and our lounge, kitchen and dining room is upstairs. So we were sat watching television, and I heard this noise, and I looked at him. I said, "What was that?" He went, "Did you hear it?" And I went, "Yeah." It was like somebody was walking up the stairs, and I was like, "That's exactly what I thought." I thought it was one of the cats,
right?
But they were on the floor in the living room. I was like, "What is going on?" Like, my husband heard it, and even he's a bit like, "What was that?" But we've had some strange things happen in this house. Like the cats go a little bit crazy on the stairs, which makes sense because the person that lived in the house before us, he actually hung himself on the stairs. And I just think that's just weird that that's where all the activity seems to be. It's very odd.
Oh, well, someone hung themselves there, did you just say?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah, it's quite sad, really, because my husband actually grew up in the house next door. So he actually knew the previous owner. He knew him, said he was lovely, but things had happened in his life that he had no control over, and he just was must have just been in a very, very dark place,
Right,
and obviously did what he did. Nobody told us this when we bought the house, which I'm a bit annoyed about, because I'm pretty sure with the UK law they are meant to tell you if anything like this has happened, but they didn't.
Right.
But when I walked into the house, I didn't pick anything up on it, so that was a bit strange. But when I'm in the house, I never feel like I'm on my own. I do feel like I'm being watched. It's a really strange feeling. And when you're on your own, it's quite creepy.
Right. But just creepy, not like uneasy.
Sorry, what was that?
I said it just creepy, like a scary movie, or does it make you feel uneasy?
It makes me feel a little bit uneasy. I get it when I'm like if I'm with Ian and even if he's just in the bedroom and I'm in the living room, I just feel a bit uneasy, like, because obviously they say never do an investigation in your house, in your own house that you live in, so I would never do that. But part of me feels like maybe whoever it is wanting to possibly say something and speak. I don't know. Right. But I've always been told not to investigate my own house.
I'd say that's smart.
Yeah, that's a good idea. End up making it worse.
I know. Well, that's it.
Well, it was awesome talking with you, and I can't wait to follow your team and see exactly where you're going to go. And I want to have you back on for sure. And maybe by then you'll. I don't know. I always have this thing with I want to get your exact what's the word I'm looking for? I want to get your exact emotions and feelings, and and the more you do this, the more. I mean, I could hear you when you had that SLS cam. You was definitely very excited, and it was definitely a touching moment when I was watching it, because you definitely you have a lot of empathy and compassion, and I could pick that up right away.
Yeah, I think it was because it was a child, because I perceived it to be a child, and the thought of the child being away from its mum or dad or on its own, it just made me feel so sad. And we left the car that we had, like the little toy car, we left it there for whoever it was, because it didn't feel right taking it away, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah, it does. That makes a lot of sense.
And I just thought, oh God, like for them to obviously, for whoever it was to potentially show themselves, it was a big deal, and it was for it to stay there so long as well. It was incredible to actually be there and see it.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting video. I thoroughly enjoyed watching that, because it's usually, like you said, it's not that long that you'll come across something that interacts. It's usually pretty quick, but yours was actually quite long.
Yeah, I'd say probably about 3 minutes, if not a bit longer.
Right, it's like it felt like it was the star of the show.
Yeah,
you can use it if you want to put it onto your Facebook page to upload it and say this is what happened.
Yeah, I'll have to share it for sure. I'm definitely going to link your group whenever I put it on YouTube.
Well, when we do investigations, we always go live so people can actually join in on the live. But obviously, it's a bit different our time zones to your time zone. So we generally do start our investigations at about 10 p.m, 9:30, 10 p.m. So I'm assuming that's about 4, 5 o'clock where you guys are.
Yeah, we're 5 hours behind.
Yeah, so it's probably about tea time for you guys.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people would join on that.
Oh, yeah. It's your live stuff. I watched one yesterday. It's really good. I mean, for people that don't know what a paranormal investigation team goes through, it's awesome because they get to see exactly what it is you do and not the edited paranormal TV show type of way.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, like, obviously these paranormal shows, they're at a location for maybe 24, 48 hours, and then they condense everything into a 45-minute show. So we were there for 4 hours, and for probably, I'd say, 45 minutes of that hour that we did the live, nothing happened. But for those 15 minutes that were broken up within the hour and a bit, that's when the things happened. So it's just about being patient, I guess.
Oh, yes. And like you said, you can be there. You can be at a location for 2 days and only get a 1-minute clip of, not even EVP, but maybe it's an orb or something. It's just a little bit. So people don't understand what paranormal investigators go through. They think that it's just like TV, and it's definitely not.
No, definitely. I agree.
But I thank you so much for being a guest on this show and telling us some of your experiences and listening to some of your EVPs. I'm very excited to talk with you again next time as well. And,
no, definitely. Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I'll definitely come back on. Just let me know when.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I asked you before, if somebody needs your help, you'd help them, right? So, like, if somebody has paranormal activity going on, and they need to reach out to somebody, a credible team like yourself, they can do that.
Yeah, for any advice. Yeah, definitely.
And do you have a website, or is it just Facebook?
No, we don't have a website yet. We are thinking of putting one together, but we do have our Facebook page, the Paranomaly Investigations.
And it's para, and then there's like a dash in there, and then it's Northern, correct?
Yeah.
So they'll be able to find you pretty easily. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Thank you so much for being on the show, and we will definitely talk to you soon.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, thank you very much for having me on. It's been lovely chatting.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. You guys take care.
You as well.
Bye.
Bye now. Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining in again. That was Emma Flood with Paranorthern, located in Bolton, UK, in the Manchester area. And this team, I'm telling you, folks, you're going to have to follow along with them. They are an incredible team, and they're doing great things. So thank you very much. I'm Todd Wayne, along with
Courtney Lynn.
And we hope you come back for another episode of Paranomaly.